Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager. This is episode 93. Last time we did not have our best first race of the season. Each driver making a mistake. I made a strategy call that didn't work out either. And collectively, it still led to 10 points. It was okay. It could have been far worse. Could have been far better because on track we actually crossed the finish line in second, but a 5-second penalty bumped us down to sixth and then ninth. So things really were that close to being pretty good. We really were in position for P2, P3, maybe P2, P4, how things were going. So we definitely could have had a better race than that. Last time at Jeddah a year ago, we were fourth and fifth, having definitely improved from the first race weekend, and we were actually just a second away from winning that race. That's how close that one was. We have a car that can beat other cars. I'm learning some things about the new engine that we have and how it functions, and I'm optimistic that we can start getting some podiums pretty consistently.
Formula One is back. Welcome to one of the fastest circuits on the calendar here at Jeddah. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is about to kick off and the atmosphere here is electric. The Jeddah street circuit has one of the fastest average speeds as well as the most corners of any track on the calendar. Good high-speed downforce is going to make life in the fast lane a little easier for drivers here this weekend. We might still be early in the season, but that doesn't mean we can sit back and relax. Everything is up for grabs and nothing is certain at this stage. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Formula One.
Straight to qualifying this season, as I don't have time to get through the practices, which means we've got some really hit and miss setups. We were in the 40 percentile after practice. My guess for where we're at right now could be really anywhere. I would imagine at the very least I'll get us up into the 70 percentile or better, but I don't think we're going to be hitting big bonuses this race weekend, which could make things a bit more difficult for us. Also, I'm hoping that we have a car that is good enough to get out of Q1 in a single run. Therefore, we're going to try to take that clean air of everybody getting through their first run, and then we'll get out there for run number 2 and see how it goes. Am I asking too much of them, or will this be a good strategy? We got Porsche out in the front portion of cars, doing out towards the tail end of the cars, and neither car with a lap in yet, and only a second separating the field. But Porsche is P6 and doing, hopefully should be in a similar type state, well ahead and good enough to get out of the session. Doing P4, yeah, going late, really helping, and less than a tenth off pole. Well, from 40%, I managed to get them both over 80%, which isn't too bad in terms of the bonuses on what that's going to do for the car. But to be competitive, generally we need a little bit more than that, just because the drivers themselves at 81s are a bit off compared to others. But the biggest thing for me is if we can get them out there without making mistakes. Guan Yu Zhou started his flying lap a bit too early, and he's encroaching on the back end of the field, but Duin is going to start his lap just before Zhou catches up to him. Zhou messes up his own lap, so that's good for us. Porsche, very much on the early side, Duin again on the tail end, and we employ the same strategy that we did in Q1, which is a single run. Porsche immediately went on to row 2 of the grid, but of course he's so early on the finishers, and the field's so close together, separated by just 1 second, that he could drop down the order a fair bit. Let's hope he's got enough guys behind him, so he'll be fine. Now we just need Duin to finish, and Duin comes across for the moment anyway. P5, Porsche, because of the early run, slips to P7, but we're looking pretty good based on those laps. Getting out early for Q3, setting that banker lap. Norris leading the way. Porsche should get a little bit of a tow behind him, and Duin as well. kind of laps are we going to put in. We split Norris, Pourchaire a bit better off. Pourchaire, second row after the first run, doing not even half a second behind, is last place of the 10 runners. But we are going to be on our faster. That was a used set. We have one more fresh set for the race, and then a partial used. We'll have another partial used after this run. So we have options for the race. And now let's see if we can finish the deal. Pourchaire, though, that's a good lap from Pourchaire. But we're talking about less than a tenth of a second. Let's get on board with Pourchaire as he is running his lap. He is in Sector 1 already. We'll see what his time is like. Currently P4 for him. Doing definitely with more work to do. A lot of these drivers will not improve their time. So far, Pourchaire, green, Sector 1. Any improvement right now could be up to P3, but the Red Bulls are going to be hard to catch. Doing green, Sector 1 as well. For him, he's got a lot to gain with a good lap. Pourchaire green in both sectors so far as we come around the final turn and head for the start-finish line, and he is up to P3. Up to P3. That was to be expected. We're a little bit off the pace of the Red Bull for this one, but doing green in the first two sectors. One final corner. No mistake here. No wall on the exit. And what will his time be like? Any improvement will move him up quite a bit, and it's up to P4. Yes. 1/1000th of a second short of Pourchaire. Almost identical laps from them, and it will be a row 2 lockout. I like to see that. That is a great start position for the race to come. And I like our options on the tires going into the race, but we'll see what that translates into as we pick our strategy for the day.
Continues to build here as race day begins.
Williams made short work of the qualifying session here and have been rewarded with strong grid positions to start the race. Although we didn't see a standout performance from Alpine during qualifying, everything's still open to them during this race. And the sky is looking grey and cloudy today. An effective tyre strategy could prove very valuable as the race plays out.
Well, this is certainly going to be a challenging but no doubt exciting race here in Jeddah.
Assuming that a row 2 lockout is definitely no fluke, and we're only about 0.3 of a second per lap slower than the Red Bull, but when you added DRS, we should easily cover off those 0.3 of a second per lap. That combination means we can hang back behind the Red Bulls and be fine and keep up. And I don't need the extra pace by going light on fuel to make up a gap. I think we've already got a minimal gap that DRS will easily take care of. Having the extra fuel means overtakes can be easy. We're looking at a one-stop strategy of medium to hard, and if we have safety car conditions, we've got brand new softs ready to go that will be easy to use. With that being said, let's get out there and see if we can't consolidate a second row. Field's very tight. I think it's going to be really hard this season, from the looks of things, to open up significant gaps over the chasing pack. You're going to see one big clump of cars together and then a massive gap where cars have kind of made mistakes and then get left behind and don't quite have the pace and then just drift further and further back, where enough of the field's close enough together that you could see, I think, large racing groups through at least this first portion of the season being a pretty regular thing.
It's a cloudy night tonight, but otherwise the weather looks good for the race. Looking at the Williams now. They're up in third position, tantalizingly close to pole. And looking at the second Williams car. Not as close to the front as they might have wished for, but we know the race order can change a lot during those first few corners. Will their hard work pay off today? It's almost time for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
If you ask me, we're probably as fast, if not faster, than the Red Bull. The problem The reason why they're 0.3 faster, Verstappen and Russell are just that much better. As Pourchaire has made it through to P2, so he's already had a good start on this one, and we can already settle in. I don't want to be moving up to P1 right now, so we'll go neutral. Doing though, poor start, slips to P5. We'll certainly look for an early overtake here from Doohan, if possible, where Pourchaire is hopefully going to be comfortable in P2, and Verstappen might have enough pace to overtake him, or they'll swap back and forth, but I have no reason to be pushing in the early stages unless at some point we see somebody getting a little bit out of sorts in terms of the gap, and we can maybe get somebody out of DRS range as an option. It's really difficult to overtake here. You can see Doohan having multiple looks on Leclerc already, but then he backs off and is half a second behind. This will be our last chance. We have the hairpin here into the front straight. If we don't get it here, then I think we're going to settle down.
Check the DRS.
Battery's empty. Battery's empty. That's it. Into harvest, into conserve, and standard. Right now it's holding, but with DRS, I would expect we can close that back down, as those cars are all too close to one another. You can see Pourchaire just a 10th behind Verstappen. We are faster than Sainz, as we've pulled away a little bit from him. A couple tenths. And there we go. We close that back up. Get into a strong position, and that gap comes down. Magnussen nearly out of DRS range. That would be the top 8 pulling away, which there does seem to be 4 teams that are a bit better, as Pourchaire has gotten around Verstappen into the race lead. Magnussen has now fallen out of DRS range. He's 2 seconds back, and that gap is starting to open pretty quick. Schumacher is also a ways behind, over 3 seconds down. Russell overtakes Pourchaire. He goes from first to third as both Red Bulls slot by with DRS. So DRS, not our friend at the moment. Makes us overtake Red Bull, but then it makes Red Bull to overtake us in a kind of multitude kind of way. Okay, we have closed back down here. Let's go ahead and refill again. Leclerc, it's Verstappen now in P4, by the way. The top 4 are yo-yoing quite a bit thanks to that DRS. Guys are going forward and then going back. It's so close together that without that DRS, you're going backwards pretty dang quick. Ricciardo keeping it at 2 seconds as he went around Magnussen for that train. You can see how tight things get here with us. Oh, big mistake there, and that's a crash. That is a crash by Verstappen. That is a crash by Verstappen. Neutral. We lost a lot of ground there.
Yellow red.
We can take a look now. We're just watching the Red Bull.
We were up the inside. He just lost the rear end and put it into the wall. 1.8 seconds behind for Doohan, though, so he has fallen out of DRS range as a result. Verstappen is continuing on. So he is going again, but in last place. And meanwhile, now 1.7 behind for Doohan. Two seconds back, and here comes the McLaren. Can we get a little DRS yo-yo to help close it back up? That actually brought us back to 1.7. 1.6. Let's push. We have plenty of fuel we could recover. Engine up. See what happens. As overall it's been relatively stable. 1.3, now 1.2, 1.1. The combination of tires and fuel making the difference. Inside 1 second. And Sainz is more than a second behind. Sainz is more than a second behind. Let's push a little bit more and see if we can't leave him permanently behind without DRS. Okay, we've really closed it up now.
That was a stonking lap.
New fastest lap, and no DRS for McLaren. For Sainz, he's now 1.4 back. He does close it up a little bit as Russell has a really, really terrible corner there. The front four bunch up really close, and Sainz gains a second. Without the DRS, just one bad corner from Russell. How does that keep happening? Norris 2.3 back, so we're right back to 8 cars pulling away. Ricciardo has joined the front group. I'm guessing that was from Verstappen going backwards. He's moved up 1 position, by the way, so he caught up and he's back up to 19th. So seemingly, even though you saw his rear end, his gearbox go into the wall, it would appear that Verstappen took no damage. Yep, and there's that group brought back forward. One bad corner from Russell, and that breaking of toe made worthless. First cars have pit. I don't know if they were on softs or not. Never checked. Quite a few cars actually on the hard compound, Russell included. No wonder he's lacking pace. Norris P9 falling further back, 3.5, almost 4 seconds back now. So we are slowly driving away from those guys, but we very much have an 8-car race.
And a new position.
And
Just
Doohan
gained by Williams.
has recovered the fuel, but also opened up the gap a bit. Porsche gets around Russell. And Doohan should be closing this back up shortly. And yes, that gap comes right back down.
And there's
And
an
he's back in
overtake
good
from
shape.
Williams.
Okay, next thing, as we've closed that up, let's go light, as we are close to 4% behind. Oh, we get up the inside of Russell, but have to back off. And that's opening up the door for McLaren, who nearly squeezes their way past us. And that backing off part nearly lost a second. That chase group now more than 4 seconds behind. That's not a very big gap. Except the pace between the cars is much closer than it has been in the past. 9/10. How are we getting further back here? Close that up, please. Pit stops. Bottas into the pits. Okay, closing that up. And 3 wide. 3 wide. Holy cow. Porsche. Still 3 wide. Can you pull ahead? And he does. And he does. That's going to allow those guys to come back forward a bit. They gain close to a second. Porsche with the double overtake. I have him set to pit 1 lap later than Doohan, which based on how the tires are doing, that's actually a perfect strategy. Now with a one-stop strategy, that one stop is coming pretty soon. Doohan never quite fully recovered his battery, but it's in good shape. With DRS, Russell goes through. Leclerc goes off into the pits. Early pit stops. Russell will not be pitting anytime soon. He's on the hard compound, so we can pit when we want to pit. The later we pit, the better our tires will be. So actually, following Russell for a while and extending for both cars is going to be advisable if we can stay within a second Porsche. Significantly fresher hards for later in the race will ultimately lead to a pace advantage that I find very much worth it. So as long as we can hang on, we will. Magnussen 5.3 back, 4 left of the original group of 8. Magnussen and Norris in that no man's land until you get to Ocon and Stroll, then Schumacher, and then there is Leclerc at 3.2. So 9 cars left that have yet to pit. Ignore. Last 3 cars on the medium. Stroll also holding out. And yes, last 9 cars that have yet to pit. Verstappen has now pit. He's P18. Stroll pits. So that was the last car on the mediums besides us. So we are the longest on the mediums now. Russell's about to fall below 60%, so he's about to lose some pace on those hards. It'll make it a little easier on keeping up. Half a second. Again, as long as we're holding that, getting that free DRS, that extra pace boost, it's going to make us quicker when we are on the hards. Bottas is now the pace setter, as both McLarens have gotten around Leclerc. Their lap times a 132.9, and we're running 133 flat. They're only gaining a 1/10 of a second per lap. So we are not at a disadvantage at this point in time. That lap, Sainz was pretty quick, 132.1. So it takes a couple laps to get them up to temperature, it would seem. But then they are starting to gain a bit there. Have we gained enough? Is it time? We're coming up on 32% here. Going into that danger zone. We got to keep an eye on his gap. This is to leader. Okay, not to each other. The longer you extend, the more of an impact it's going to have. So we are just trying to extend as long as we can at this point. We'll have all that extra fuel that we can push with as well. So as long as we're keeping up with Russell, this is changing our race. We can push on the hards a lot more, where others are going to have to drive more cautiously. So overtakes will be easier. Those hards will be a lot fresher at the end of the race. But we are losing some ground as of right now. So there is a trade-off. But for that trade-off to matter, it needs to be a substantial difference, not a minor difference. And that's why, as long as we can, we are just going to hang on to this. You can see Doohan is starting to struggle to keep up with his teammate. Now 0.8 of a second behind. If Doohan loses contact, then he'll have to pit. Porsche now hits 30%. Doohan back down to 0.4, so he just about kept it in range there. It's lap 25 already. So we've gone halfway on these mediums. We've now gone halfway on these mediums. I think I want Doohan to pit soon. We want Perez to be out of range, though, when that time comes. We want Perez to lose the toe of Russell. So letting Doohan drift back is going to be good. I think we're going to do one more lap. You can see how we're just hanging on here. The DRS will allow us to close it back down, but you can see 0.9, 0.7. I think this is our lap. But Perez 1.5 back, so hopefully Perez has lost DRS. 2.7 flat. And we're back out on track all the way down in P14. That's the worrying part. But the good news part is we're going to be in a lot better shape than these guys. 99% where, look at that. You got guys that haven't pit that are going to pit soon, so they'll all be behind us. But those ones that did pit, like Bottas, already down to 77%. So we've got a good 20% advantage. That is going to make a big difference down the stretch in race pace. But we've got ground to make up. How much ground do we have to make up? 18 seconds to leader, 12 seconds to Bottas. So we've got about 6 seconds to make up. Doohan capable of going forward with these cars, I would think, especially with the brand new tires. He could probably make some progress. Porsche now at 21% and struggling to keep up with Russell, but managing to do so. But I think this needs to be the lap. We don't want to be dropping below 20%. So pit this lap. And pushing Perez out of DRS range at 1.3. Doohan has a 4-second gap behind him, so Porsche theoretically will probably come out just behind Doohan if not just ahead. But again, with a slight tire advantage, and we'll get kind of the pair of them moving up the grid together. But there's cars that are going to pit, and getting them out of the way will be helpful. And there we go, off into the pits. Perez now just a second behind. Apparently that DRS is very helpful for him, and it's going to keep him in DRS with Russell. And the stop is not a great one, close to 2.8, close to a tenth slower than Doohan, and I think that's going to bring us out behind him, and it does. Now you can see our pace, our group's pace is better than that of Russell, so we are actually gaining ground here. Now 8 tenths back and closing. And Verstappen, who's made his way forward, is 2.7 behind. He's definitely made up some ground, but he pit quite a while ago. Schumacher will pit soon. Ocon will pit soon. Norris, Magnussen, Perez, Russell will all pit soon. So we got at least 6-7 cars that are going to go backwards. That will move us up quite a bit. We should be ahead of all of them as Russell and Perez are losing ground to our group. But at some point, we have got to get ahead of these guys. As Albon, Ricciardo, Gasly are either going to go the distance or at least go quite a while before they do bother pitting. So, do it. Let's see if we can get around Schumacher, though Schumacher's going to pit soon. He's not the one that I really worry about, but Gasly is losing ground ahead of him. And Gasly has enough that he might pit again, but it would be late. And if he doesn't, he's just going to lose a ton of pace. Dang it, that silly... So being third in line is really making this a lot harder than it could or should be. Because he's getting the DRS and then getting up on Gasly, but then can't overtake Gasly, and then there's no space for a third car. We'll continue right on for now. We have all this extra tire wear. This is what it needs to be for. We get up the inside, and that will be a complete overtake. Then we're also going to get DRS here on Gasly and should get the double and get around him as well. In fact, we're going to get him before we even go through.
Just gained by Williams.
He gets the DRS, doesn't he? Yeah, Gasly stays really close, but we stay ahead of him. And we should be able to start driving away. Okay, on a Porsche from P13. Magnussen with the lockup. We are 1.1 behind Ocon, and we've got Perez just behind us, by the way. So Perez pit already. So Perez has pit already, and he is now just behind us. Verstappen just went around him. Into the pits and out of our way, finally, but held us up, really held us up. We're 1.3 behind Gasly. We've got to close that down. And that's going to bring us forward. Gasly now 1 second behind Doohan, so Doohan has escaped Gasly. We will overtake him pretty quickly here. In fact, this is the time we want to do that, so we'll go ahead and make sure that happens here on the straight. That'll also, hopefully, get us a gap over Perez and Verstappen. And there it is, now P6 and P7. Russell into the pits and well behind us.
Good job.
And Porsche just set the fastest lap. At almost within a second of his teammate.
Looks like a good move for Williams.
Porsche, technically a double overtake, but no, that's one in the pits and one on track. But keep working to close down your teammate. Now go neutral here, but close it down a little bit more. Doing just 1.2 behind Albon. That's quite a bit closer than he was just a little bit ago. But let's get Porsche in range first to get DRS and get out of Gasly's range. Let's push. Get out of Gasly's range. Just over a second ahead of Gasly. Okay, I want both of you to push a bit. We need to close up on Albon.
We think you can reduce lift and coast.
Okay.
Copy that.
Just edge it up for both drivers now. We have left Gasly behind. We have not yet closed up on Albon and then Ricardo as that next target. Okay, ease off. Caught our teammate. Lap 35. Will we overtake him even though he's got the engine up? Looks like that might be the case. So doing, we'll back off.
Coast
let
level
him on
3.
through.
Copy.
Still side by side though, which is not how I want to see it. We need to be closing up on those guys. But Porsche, with that DRS, gains that extra half second, and that was enough to get us in DRS range. We'll close up on those two. And we are 2 seconds ahead of Perez, who has gotten around Gasly. But he will not get DRS from us anytime soon. So we can absolutely close it down on these guys. Lap 35. Okay, let's just check in on scenarios again here on where we're at on especially these front 5 drivers. They have all done their final pit, but at 60 to 65% we have a significant advantage and can certainly use that advantage to go forward. And are looking to do so now. That is Porsche to the inside. Porsche to the inside. And we can go right to the front of this group. Go right to the front. Oh. Why are you not going to the inside of Albon? You've got Albon to the inside, but we're not interested. We made no attempt on that. We could have easily overtaken Albon.
Option.
Let's go, let's go. Gasly does pit again. Second pit for him. Going up the inside, which will become the outside, and then the inside, and then the outside, and then the inside, and we kind of tuck back in. I suppose we think better of it. But again, we're going to have a look. 5 seconds behind. Now we get up the inside. Full inside for the hairpins. Should turn into an advantage on the exit, and it is. We have the position up to P4. Alright, doing. Let's make our way forward as well. When, where, how to do that. As that DRS is allowing them to contest, but I think we have enough pace to hold them off. Okay, it's clear we're already starting to think about it.
Okay, we can easily overtake.
Copy.
Got enough of a run, but out of battery. Tuck back to the inside. Again, tuck further to the inside, and we will have the inside. The 2 Red Bulls are just 9th and 10th right now. Bottas has gone around Leclerc. Around Leclerc. McLaren looking really good. Both cars on the podium. But we are slowly gaining on them right now. And Russell and Verstappen have not quite made contact as of yet. How did I spend almost a full lap harvesting and still be going down to 0? In the back half of the lap, of course, we want to set it up kind of for the front straight for the overtake there, unless we can get it done sooner. We do start to challenge already. We clearly have a pace advantage. Battery's empty already. What the heck? We recover half the battery and he uses it up in a third of a lap. Doing just does not have good battery management at all. Takes him forever to save it. And then he burns through it in a heartbeat without actually succeeding at doing anything whatsoever. Battery's at 25% improved because it's the end of the straight where we've been hitting 0. So we're at 25% now. But that was a lap and a half. Porsche getting inside 1 second of Carlos Sainz now in the McLaren. And we'll begin to close him down. And that's bumping Albon out of DRS, potentially. He was over a second back at the detection zone, but they felt he was there. I'm glad that we just ghosted the wall instead of smacking the wall. Somebody else has hit it, though. Schumacher has, and Albon is out of DRS range. With DRS, this will be easy. And it should also, hopefully, catapult us into DRS range ahead of us.
Happy to increase.
Oh,
Copy.
oh, do it. Oh, do it. Oh, do it. Oh, what are you doing, dude?
Let's have a look. Now we see the Williams here.
That's the same mistake Verstappen made earlier in the race.
Thank goodness nobody else was involved.
Plenty of time there
That was a
to
big
recover
crash.
and get back out on track, but he's still sitting there.
And the team had such high hopes today.
I did have such high hopes today. I was thinking about the 1-2. Doohan's out of the points entirely now. 60%, 8 laps to go. Go standard for a bit. Just close these guys down. 1.6 behind Stroll. Stroll, Norris, Giovinazzi, all guys he can overtake, but it looks like P10 is about the best he can hope for. Okay, so we caught these guys. That's good. Now we need to recover a little bit of fuel. Catching them was costly. It certainly came at a cost, but what are we at? Yeah, huge advantage in the tires. And Perez, his advantage is going to be gone here quite soon. And meanwhile, we're going to have a lasting advantage. How is the fuel getting worse after I backed off? Stroll will be easy pickings, and then Norris would be too, and then Giovinazzi. They are all outside of DRS range of each other, so you can catch them one at a time, and take them out. Time for an overtake. Battery's about to run out, though. Oh, double overtake. Nice, up to P2. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful work right there. Okay, balanced. And standard.
Williams there gaining
And we're going to
several
harvest.
places in one
Doohan
go.
has gotten around Stroll. Doohan has made it around Stroll. Now he's got 3.5 seconds to go to catch Norris, though. That's going to be a project here in these closing laps. But we're going to get this battery nice and charged. Battery portion's fine. Doohan down to 3.6, so he's already pulled back a second. Norris caught Giovinazzi, so he is going on the faster side. He's going to be more difficult to catch. Giovinazzi's an easy one, though, from the looks of it. A little more fuel, a little more harvest, back into P2. That's Bottas in the lead, by the way. Sainz has fallen to P5. Russell is all the way up to P4 now. Doohan has caught up. No, Stroll went around. Oh, come on. I thought you had Stroll out of DRS range. Apparently not. Up to 0.3, that's good. That's good. That should just about do it on the fuel part. Okay, saving that battery. We've got the P2 part, but now we've got to catch up to Russell. Easier said than done. Russell might have snuck in and stole that race from us. We are 12 seconds behind the leader with Doohan after his spin out, and that's a bit of a gap to cover to get up to P10, and it's too far definitely to get to others. And where we had got it to within 3 seconds, Stroll catching up to us cost us 2 seconds, and we're back to not being in a good state on that one. Attack, serve. Stroll catches right up down the straight. I was trying to get Stroll out of range. I think we're going to have to just suck it up and accept our fate. So, back to Pourchaire. Pourchaire gets within a second and leaves Perez and Leclerc, who are third and fourth, 2 seconds behind. And it's lap 49. And it's about to be lap 50. We are about to have 1 lap to go And the overtake is on.
Last lap, last lap.
Last lap. Last lap. And into the race
Truck
lead.
overtake is available.
Still side by side, even though we already had the job done. We had the job done, and then side by side, and we let him back through. And then we back off and let him. Oh, come on, buddy. Come on. Don't do this to yourself. We're going to have to full deploy on the finish line and aggressively go there as well. Yes, we're back to a .1. Okay, there is the detection zone. No, that's still not quite it.
Make sure you build some energy.
There's the final detection zone. Let's go. Everything you got. Nope, it's not going to be enough. Russell's going to take the win. Porsche will take P2.
DRS is currently disabled. DRS is currently disabled.
That was the finish line. That's P2. Perez takes P3. Bottas is going to... The McLarens from P1 and 3 are going to miss out on the podium entirely. 4, 5, 6. And doing P12.
Over the line.
P12.
Okay,
Sad on that
flag.
part, but still a much, much better points haul for us. Verstappen, only 9th place means Red Bull is going to put a little bit of distance on us. Perez and Leclerc from 3rd and 5th, I think we're going to have similar points hauls, but they might be a little bit ahead of us, and that's all because doing, again, with another mistake. 2 races, 2 mistakes. Porsche, much better day. Nearly comes away with the win, but Russell, who was strong, remember, it was Russell we were following in that first stint. We couldn't quite get the better of him. We come so close. Still, much better race. We do get fastest lap, so we get a bonus point for that. That's 19. Verstappen gets pole, so he gets a bonus point, so that's 3. So they get 28, we get 19. So we fall further behind Red Bull. That's 25 for Ferrari, so we lose 6 points to them. But we actually lose a point to McLaren as well. We need Doohan to start doing better. He needs to stop making mistakes. Really needs to stop making mistakes. Otherwise, we are going to be in trouble. Big time trouble. We're up to 4th, but the gap to the front 3 has grown. Even after a 2nd place, the gap has grown. That is going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.